first Indian name was Joaquin Hotu, given to me by my dad. And I have a story behind that. There's always a story behind something. And then my second Indian name is Wiyaga Hireshka, was given to me after a Sundance. My Sundance leader, he said, I'm changing my way of, I'm changing my road now. I'm walking a different road. So I got that name, Wiyaga Hireshka, Spotted Feather. So I got two Indian names. And later I was given a song. I got my own song. And some people have their own songs, and I was lucky to get mine.
I really actually didn't start school until I was about 6. One day we was playing along the creek, and my dad decided it's time for us to go to school, so he took us to school. I couldn't speak a word of English. Fortunately, we had some other people that knew how to speak English and everything, so they kind of interpreted. We kind of used them as interpreters, you might say, for the ones that couldn't speak English. Because we grew up talking Indian all the time, so. But that was one of my biggest regrets, is I never taught my kids how to talk Indian.
My brother and myself were raised by our grandparents, Andrea Ireland, and things they taught us, I still keep them and trying to teach my nieces and my nephews the way of life, the Indian life.
When my dad was gonna put me and my brothers and sisters in there one by one, he said that he was going to put us at boarding school. He said the sisters, he said in Indian, he said, we chalk on spepta. He said, and we chalk on spepta, that means when you break and train a horse. So my grandma got mad. She said, we chalk almost, but they're not horses. She said. So she got mad.
I was telling one of these people one time, this guy had this doctorate degree, and I said, there's two educations. I said, there's Washichu, and that's good. We need that in today's world. But there's a Dakota way too. The language. So the language, that's good. And then, if you go to ceremonies, sweat, and if you're a sun dancer, if you're a pipe carrier, if you're a healer, if you're a singer, and if you know the medicines, the herbs, all that kind of stuff, history. I said, if you went to that university, I said, and told them what you know, he said, you be the only one that knows what you know at that university. And then the Washichu world, when somebody knows something up here, they give them all kinds of initials behind their name. I said, you go tell them. I said, maybe they'll give you the voice behind yours.
I thought, this is getting serious and I really need to talk to somebody. And so I went and found one of our spiritual leaders and took tobacco, and I said, I have a very serious question. And I said, it's going to make a difference in my life. And I said, I want you to guide me. And I said, I do these ceremonies. I go to ceremony. Then I go to church on Sunday and practice the Catholic way. And then I have a name. I've got my name in ceremony. My children have names. My grandchildren have names. I take them to ceremony. I said, am I doing something wrong? And the spiritual leader said, there is no wrong way to pray.
And she told me, she said, Dakota, you're going to have a hard time in the future. And then she was telling me, she said, Dakota, in Hank had you a docket. Ask me what the docket is, my comment. said, you're going to see the end. I'm going to be underground. And she said, Hapetog ha ihankig Edward Dakik. Then she said, Daku, we charged her, we wakanja, she checha, dana, umakia, dawana, Daku, she chama, amichik tuja. She said, they're going to be saying, forgive me. I did all the things I did wrong, but it's going to be too late, she said. So, grandson, the taha wuchik had hikt, the taha mahanikt. From this day on, you should be praying as you go on.
And he prayed and he fasted and he prayed and he fasted and he prayed and he fasted and he prayed and he fasted. And while he was there, he heard this bird talking with him and telling him, look at me, look at me. He looked up there and he seen this bird in the nest and told him, I have been listening to your prayer and listening to you asking for help for your people. I'm honoring your request and I'm going to help your people now. But you will have to respect the gift that you are given from me, and I'll continue to help your people. So the bird gave the nest and said, here is the nest. Here is the sweat lodge. This is what you will go in when you go into the sweat lodge. And I am also going to give you my legs. With those legs, you will use them to guide the grandfathers into the pit in the sweat. And you will also use my legs to make music. And you will also use these same legs for corrections in the lodge. And with my tail that I give to you, you will use that tail to sprinkle on the grandfathers. So we either use sweet grass or we take long pieces of grass and we'll tie it with the grass and we'll use that as a sprinkler while we're in the sweat. So that's the instructions that were given, and that was from the Thunderbird that gave us the sweat lodge. So, we're very thankful, for that gift that we have received, and we do still follow those instructions.
There was a lesson from my grandma. In Indian, of course, she said, in the future, when you grow up, when you're a young man, she said, you see an orphan child someplace, you go up to him and take his hand and say, yo, what he get you? Come to my house. So that's what I was doing that until my wife passed away here. And I mentioned we had to go down to the jail and be bringing kids home from the jail while the mom's in there. Wabdenicha, that's what they call an orphan. Wabdenicha. So that was everything my grandma did and said every day was a lesson.
In 1825, there was a treaty between the Dakota and the Ojibwe people. And it happened in the area around Devil's Lake to Pembina in that area. We were sharing hunting territory, but we were getting into a lot of conflicts. We were killing each other. Families were being hurt. Children were getting killed. And so our leaders in all their wisdom, got together and they signed a treaty. And it's the terms of that treaty, I think, that are the most interesting. In that treaty, to stop the killing, they agreed that their most prized possession was their children. And so to stop the fighting, they exchanged children. And on my mother's side, my family name is Buanas. And if you tell that to an Ojibwe speaker, they'll say, "Where did you get a name like that?" And I always say, it's a long story. But Buanas means little Sioux boy.
So one day, his wife took him to the clinic, and so he's hard hearing too. So he went in there, and finally he says, "Francis." And he got up, looked at his wife. The doctor said, no, just him. So he went in there, and was talking to him, checked him over, everything. He did everything to him, physical. He said, "Francis, can't see what's wrong with you." He said, "Nothing wrong with you." He said, "A little work won't kill you," he said. "Okay," he said. Must have been kind of heavy set or something. He came out, and his wife was anxious. "Talk up, yeah." "Sitja, what sitja do, talk, yes. Then, I'm a detective." He said in English, he said, "The doctor said if I do a little work, it's going to kill me." He couldn't hardly hear. And then we used to get punished when we talk our language. We had a lot of Chippewas going to school there. And he used to tell us, "Sister, they're speaking Indian." They line us up. They used to make their own soap. Little square bottles, the squares, wrap it, remember that? They wrap it. One soap for everything, your hair, your face, your clothes. They made it right there. Had lye and straw in it. So when they cut us talking Dakota, they break it into 4 parts. We each get a quarter. We had to eat it. We eat that soap, and about 20 minutes later, geez. That's what they call a run.
My husband, that I didn't meet yet, that I would meet within that week, he was on the hill where Crazy Horse had his Sundance, and he was fasting up there, and he was on his last day, and he spoke in his language, and he said, "I have done everything that you have asked me to do. Now I'm going to ask you for something. I want you to give me a partner that's equal to me, that won't mind when I have to go on trips and when I have things to do." So the Ojibwe spirits, the Lakota spirits brought my words and his prayer together, and we ended up meeting. And, to be a little humorous, I remember when I heard him speak for the first time, and this was in Detroit Lakes, Minnesota. I walked in, we were a little late walking in, my sister and I, and he happened to be talking, and I was just thinking to myself, I have to have a piece of that.
The cancer had to be like a lump. So it didn't sound like she did internal cancers. It was like if you had a cancer someplace on your body. And he said, from what I understand, there was 2 processes. One of them, she made a poultice, and she would put this on that cancer, and it would be like fire. It was like burning the person's body. And then when the cancer died, then she had another poultice, and she put the poultice on that cancer, and when it took hold, she would take it off, and the cancer looked like a spider. He said it had long tentacles, and he would just lift it right off. I was telling that story in Grand Forks one time, and it hit the newspaper, and I got a call from Roger Jourdain. He was a chairman at Red Lake at the time. He said, "Carol, do you speak the language?" I said, "No." He said, "Do you know the word for cancer in Ojibwe?" And I said, "No." He said, "The word for cancer is the same word as spider."
So I came in there, and in Indian, I said, "You're going crazy over money." I said, "We must go in the Kanashkin." I said, "The kind I can get off." I said, go on home." I said, so they left, and I turned around and I asked Grandma, I said, "How come you didn't say nothing?" And she said, "Sit down, I'm going to tell you something." She said, "When you know people that use bad medicine," she said, they can make you sick. She said, they put it in their mouth, on their tongue, and they come and they argue you. She said, if you sit there with your mouth closed, then it won't go in. But if you open your mouth and argue back, then that bad medicine comes in and makes you sick. But if you sit there with your mouth closed, it's got no place to go, so that person, it goes back in them. So that's why I didn't say nothing. So there again, that was another lesson. Like I said, every day was...
The way my name was explained was Wabdino Woke Wichasta Inichaktas. You're going to be a helper of people. And I'm just not trying to do that now.
To many of the dancers, beautiful flower beadwork was perfection, but only the elders of the tribe knew and would notice her beadwork, which always had one misplaced bead, a different size or different color within her beadwork. People won't notice that. They just because it was so good. And then she always did this on purpose because she was taught and learned one of our Dakota spiritual beliefs that we are never perfect, but strive to be, and there is only one who is perfect, and he is Wakantanka, God.
So there's things that we have to do. So we get ready though for winter. Like, they used to have a big garden, all the garden stuff, and put them in root cellars, or either in the house you have a little, I don't know what you call them, the little cellars, and then put them in there for the winter too, because there's no fridge in them days when my grandfather was. So we learned how to make what's now cherries and dry meat. We help our grandmother, and then the tripe from the cow, the stomach, that's what we help clean. And then my grandmother always teaches how to, we want to play, but we have to learn these things. So I'm glad that they taught us all this, and then it should go on, but nobody does all those things. Everything now, since there's all this EBT and all these things are coming on, they want the fresh pizzas and cold meat. They don't think about how they're going to survive the next day, because if that runs out, then there's nothing to eat, and then they don't know how to put a garden in. But being there for them, I teach them, you should just do it around your house, get a little shovel, do this. But these are the things we need to teach the younger generation.
used to tell stories in the evenings. My auntie used to tell me a story about a dozen times. I don't care, I just sit there and listen. Or my uncles. I knew what they're going to say, and I just know when they start. I just patience. I really learn patience and respect, and just listen. You don't say, "Oh, I heard that before." I don't do that. Just listen. So I heard that's how they teach us repetitiveness. They tell you these stories over and over, so you won't forget.